Get the piping aboard, done.
Well, John wasn't sampling then, but he had the van. And he used to take Pepper to a veterans race. It could be down to start early. And not only there, but up into Cheshire. And wherever we went,
My glove somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. Who's taking it off?
Lady handbag, needs at 10.
Felicity taking out Cindy goes down on the eternity now.
She's already on camera, smiling on the door.
The only thing I'm worried about is she's not on it.
The other one that my father used to play was players.
They are, aren't they? Delia's master film video. They've got
Mr. Mayor, I must say it was a great honour when many people insisted that I did this job. I tried to wriggle out because I always seem to have to sing from a supper. Tonight, probably, I feel a little bit like the bridegroom on his first night. I know exactly what's required of me, but I don't quite know how to go about it. But I'll do my best anyway. Before I propose the toast, no doubt I ought to give a little bit of a biography. If any of you want a copy after for the printers, I'll let you have it. But I have had spies out. We've had flies on the wall in Bark Hill, and I gather that Dr. Rogerson was born in 1913 over in Ireland, the son of a civil servant, and in 1931 he entered medical school in Dublin University. He stayed there for a short while, but in the mid-30s he moved to Liverpool. And there he completed his studies, and that is where he met Dr. Evelyn, who later was to become his wife. I gather she had a twin sister. They took the finals in 1937, and I gathered also that Dr. Evelyn proved Browning's theory that the female was superior to the male, just looking at the post in the finals. I hope that's right. Now, when they completed their finals and gained their degrees, Dr. Rogerson spent a short time in various hospitals in Liverpool, and then, I think it was on January the 1st, 1939, he came to Whitchurch to another practice. Now, it wasn't long after that he got married. He married Dr. Evelyn in March 1939, and on April the 1st, on the departure of his partner, Dr. Evelyn joined him in the practice in Whitchurch. Unfortunately, for both of them, in the September following that, war broke out, and Dr. Rogerson joined it. After his initial training, whatever it may be in the Navy, I was a matto myself, so he joined HMS Kenya as medical officer. During his service on this ship, he saw service in many parts. He was involved, the ship was involved in raids on Norway and different trips on the famous convoys to Murmansk, where many ships were lost. And it was during this time, I gather, although I'm not very sure about this, that he was mentioned in dispatches. From there, he had a shore-based job, and believe it or not, he was medical officer in charge for the Wrens at Rosyth. I'm sure he enjoyed that immensely. A job I hankered after all my life. They would never let me near the Wrennery. After this service, he joined HMS Victorious, the aircraft carrier, and saw service in the North Sea, and he was also involved, or the ship was also involved, in the attacks on Tirpitz, which no doubt we all remember as the ship they were trying to keep in the Norwegian fjords. From there, he went. He was also involved in running the gauntlet on the Keenyank. So this was to relieve Malta. With the Glorious, he went out to the Far East, Indian Ocean, Pacific, and when the atom bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, he was actually sailing off the coast of Japan. Now, the war ended in the August, and in December 1939, he came back to Whitchurch, where Dr. Evelyn and her twin sister had kept the practice going during his service in the Navy. Now, he continued in service here as a doctor until April of this year. During that time, he led quite a busy life because, in addition to his practice, he was responsible for the clinic, the VD clinic, for want of a better word, in Shrewsbury, and many other jobs. He was a member of the old Whitchurch Urban District Council from 1947, I think, until 1958. During this time, his main interest was, of course, water, sewerage, and many of you are old enough, like myself, to remember when I came to Whitchurch what horrible water we had, and it was his baby, and it was during his time as chairman of the Public Health that the new water works at Oakham Scar were developed, and also the new sewage works at Redbrook Mailer, or the Rising Sun as it's commonly called. He was very, very keen on a new swimming pool for Whitchurch, because some of you may not know that the swimming pool that we had here by the old car park was the oldest in the country, except for the one, I think it was Stone in Staffordshire, and a shocking thing it was. He didn't stay on the council long enough to see that come into being, but two of us younger members of the council, Councillor Greaves and myself, saw that coming into being in the 1970s. Now, no doubt you all know that in 1980, Dr. Evelyn retired and Dr. Terry joined the practice to take her place, and then in 1983, Dr. Tether came along to gradually take over from Dr. Rudson on his retirement. That's his history anyway. Now, no doubt you know he had 5 children, 3 sons, 2 daughters, and I gather he's always been very proud of the fact that each one gained his degree. I gather the renegade of the family had to have 1 or 2 kicks up the backside before he made it, and I don't need to tell you who that was. He's not very far away at the other end of the table. The eldest son, Tom, if I may call him that, is now a wing commander in the RAF, stationed in Cyprus. Martin, you all know, perhaps too well. If you know him as well as I do, you'll know that if you want to go to heaven, I'm always convinced that I'm going down below. The reason I want to go there is because up above, they don't get many. They're on short time, and they have to work overtime, you see. But down below, well, they get so many that they're on short time. You don't have to work quite so hard, you see. But if ever I change my mind, I'm quite sure that I wouldn't have to get Martin to plead on my behalf, and he'd convince even St. Peter that Barrington was an angel. Andrew, the 3rd child, is an archaeologist in Norfolk. And then we have Claire, who is immediately on my left, who is married to a gentleman in the army. And finally, and a lady, I can never remember her name, but not many minutes ago, her sister told me an easy way to remember it, and her name is Rose, and she's in Norfolk, is it? In Australia, sorry. Yes, in Australia. Now, to continue the line, I gather there are 11 grandchildren and just that one on the way.
It's not bad.
I'm not going to tell you which one, but I have been told.
No.
Now,
Well, this is elimination.
now for his services to general practice, Dr. Rogerson was awarded the MBE in 1981, an honour that was greatly deserved. Now, before I ask you to rise and drink a toast, I would like, on behalf of us all, first of all, to thank all the people who helped tonight. Wish you a long, and Dr. Even, a long and happy retirement. May your pastures be green, and may the sun shine on you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to rise and drink with me to the health and happiness of Dr. Gerard and Evelyn Rogerson in their retirement. Dr. Gerard and Evelyn Rogerson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude, I would ask Miss Forrester
Beautiful. Thank you all very much. Beautiful.
Dr. Evelyn, members of the family, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing that Dr. Rogerson said to me when he sat beside me tonight was another meal we're having together, because I've known the doc for many, many years as a member of an association to which we belonged for many years, of which tie I am wearing in your honour tonight, sir. And we have had many meals together, and things which I've had to do in the last week all seem to have been associated with close and old friends who have encouraged me over the years. And I can think of no better way for initiating, as it were, this ceremony tonight and this dinner. And with that, I would couple my sincere thanks to his wife Mabel. And now I suppose there is little more to say, but for me, prior to giving you these gifts, Doc, is to offer my personal appreciation of yours, of Dr. Evelyn's services, not only to the town, but if you remember something that I will never forget, is your kindness to me when my mother died at that time. So, ladies and gentlemen, that about is as far as we can go tonight, and I think we start presenting tables. So if you will, I've got to be told all these things. Now, would you like to say, can you make it? Is there a doctor in the house? Right. Now, I've been told, Doc, that you always had problems with telephones. Yes. And so forth. Yes. So this time, the first prize we have for you, no possession prize, is a cordless telephone. So that you won't get, I believe you've always wanted it.
Well, well, it's a great luxury, I must say. It's been a wonderful thing.
Well, what I suggest is that,
Working out.
well, what I was going to suggest is that you pass them to Claire. Claire puts them over here.
Well,
Come here.
put it over there, you can leave me out.
And I am told, Doc, that you were very, very anxious to obtain so that you could use up all your spare time now, because I know you've got nothing to do with it, was a very, very special camera, which I believe that you've been trying to get for many years.
No, it's lovely. Yes.
The canon.
The canon, yes. How good to see.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And,
I remember a story about the canon. I'll tell you after.
May I follow it?
I'm very glad. Two presents.
And with great, yes, great expense, I am told, from an auction in London, something that you have been wanting for a long time is Barlow's Journal.
Good to see it. I haven't seen one of these for years. Yes. Yes. How do you think I found out about that?
What?
This is a wonderful, most interesting book. A friend of mine in the Navy had a copy of this, and it's a very unusual book. It was written by an ordinary seaman. It's the only one they've got of life on the lower deck in the 17th and 18th centuries. This says, in those days, you see, nobody could read or write except the upper classes, and that's certainly no sailors ever could. And if you remember old Nelson's Commander-in-Chief, old Jack John, he proposed very much indeed introduction of education into the Navy, and indeed education in general. He said the orders people had no right to read and write. They ought to just do what they're told and obey their orders. And reading and writing is only for a few people. And that was 100 and 200 years ago. So this old boy, he was illiterate. His captain taught him to read and write when they were shipwrecked on a desert island, and he was a wonderful drawer. So he drew, and he drew pegs everywhere he went, and he kept this journal, a lower deck journal of this period. It was extremely rare, and mostly, I'm very glad to get this. Thank you very much indeed.
Having got the books,
yes,
you see, and realizing that we now wanted something that Dr. Evelyn and yourself could both share.
yes.
I don't know, we wanted you to be able to get a little bit of this as well, you see. But we thought, so that you could sit down comfortably and read these books and everything else, that we would present something again which I believe you have been looking at and wanting for some time.
Well, the chair. Oh, yes. I'm marvelous.
You may now sit down, and you'll be able to give your speech from here in a moment. And we'll let Dr. Evelyn come in there.
She comes on my knee.
And finally, Doctor, for yourself and Dr. Evelyn, the town, as you know, donated very, very generously because they thought quite so much of you. And the balance of the account is in there, except that I keep getting donations, so you might get another one later. People keep giving me money and saying, do you know Doc Rogers? Oh, incidentally, I'll pay you back the overdraft at the short. And that comes to the end of the gifts at this stage.
Well, I haven't got to give you the gab like these councillors and companies, so you'll have to excuse me, but I'm really quite overwhelmed by all this extraordinary kindness. I never realized that I was going to get so many nice presents, and certainly whatever I've done over the years, I haven't deserved anything like this. It is quite astonishing, and I'm really, to you, Councillor Virgin, Councillor Greaves, all of you, David, all of them, it really is quite extraordinary, and I really am most grateful to you all, and I always will be. I shall never forget this evening. It's quite an exceptional thing, and I really hope that Dr. Terry, when you time comes, 45 years later, which time you look like Father Christmas. I hope he does It doesn't work. Anyway, you have been extremely kind. And I mostly, not now, a lot of things apart from these presents, everybody's given, and people all over the town, I'm sure, have contributed to. I had a bit extra. Was one man, Frank Hughes, an old patient of mine who was in Wrexham Road, was a banker. He actually sent me a cheque from New Zealand, which is very kind of him. I must mention him as well. And all the other people, I do hope you record I'm mostly, and Dr. Evelyn too, on her part of us both, I'm very grateful indeed. Now then, you've got to think about...
You were going to tell us the story about
I must say, thank you for the safe grace. And I must thank you for the drive, too, and the girls for the military escort. I must say, first I felt policemen rather like the royal family. At least I didn't have the fear that I would pop off a bomb on me. Safe going around by Brown Moss. Although the cannon, because it's a slightly rude story, I hope you don't mind. How it came about was there were people talking in the pub, and they were, the conversation came round to, I talked about the royal salutes and firing guns when people arrived and that sort of thing, and there was a Frenchman, and he said, I remember, he said, he must have been from Chateau to pub where it was your big town. Anyway, this French chap said, I was an officer in Paris, and when Princess Grace of Monaco had her first child, the General de Gaulle ordered a salute of 50 guns in the Garden of Tuileries. And we fired 50 guns, 50 cannon. And the English said, well, I was part-time in the Honourable Artillery Company when Prince Charles was born. We fired a salute of 100 cannon in Hyde Park. You see. And an Irishman said, our bishop's housekeeper had a baby last year, and he fired every cannon in the diocese. Father here's a foreign missionary. That provides another story. You probably heard this one before. This was a missionary in Africa. And one day a strange native, he was an African, came in with a message from his chief, and he's heard of his piety and holiness. Would he visit him in their village? And it was a long way off. So he said he would go. So the man said, well, I'll wait and I'll guide you there. The party said, take 2 days to get things ready, then I will go. While he made preparations, the governor heard about it. He sent for him. He says, Father, you can't go to that tribe. He said, there are outside area without any help if anything goes wrong. He said, they're very isolated, have a bad reputation, they're cannibals to a man. He said, if you go there, your life's in your own hands. So he said, well, it's my duty. I've had a call, I've got to go. It's my duty. And so he went off, and they went through the forest for about a fortnight. Eventually got to this village, and the guy got in there safely, and the chief sent a message, put him in a hut. He was very comfortable. They got packing his thing, faint sort of humming sound. It was very odd. It must have been the journey, I'm tired, I suppose the heat. Anyway, then the message came from the chief. It began to get dark, so the message came, would you go to the chief for dinner? So he said he would, and at that time the lights had gone out, and he was led to the very large hut in the middle, which seen coming in. And when he got inside this, he was astonished. The whole place lit up with electric light. And there was a table, just like this lady in front of us, down this tablecloth with silver cut glass. He thought, this is quite extraordinary. And so he said, chief, all 3 people sat down. And the first course, strange to say, was a Fortnum and Mason pate. It's quite extraordinary. That explains the humming sound. Obviously, it's a dynamo. You must have a central heating and deep freeze. And the governor's wrong on these people. He must be misinformed. I'm sure there's something wrong. And the next course came in, a large gold tureen came in with a delicious soup, you see. And so he's extraordinary. God, he said to the Chief, he said, Chief, I really must congratulate you. Your wife does make most delicious soup. And he said, no, Father, but I do miss her terribly. Dr. Eva and I have been together in harness for 45 years now, or 46 years since now. 45. And I couldn't have done anything at all without her help. I mean, the way she and her sister ran the practice during the war really was really tremendous, because at that time, you must remember, not so many people came to the surgery, and there were a very large number of house calls, day and night. And you couldn't have, at night you couldn't put any lights on in your car. You had to drive in with mast headlights. And there were no street lights. Nobody's allowed to have a light in the windows. You got a call in the middle of Wixom in the middle of the night. It took you a very long time to get there and back. And the poor old Dr. Eva and her sister had put up with that. And really, she did very, very well indeed. Now, that's when I was in the Navy, having a good time looking after the Reds. I must say the Reds were very charming. Some of them, there were some very odd ones. There was the chief one was Dame Lawton Matthews, who was known as Tugboat Annie. She was about 6 foot 4. She was even taller and broader than me than you. She was big like a fish. She was a sister of Charles Lawton, the actor. She was a wonderful person. But she was the only one of the heads of the women's forces who held that job all the way through the war. All the others, after about the head of the ATS and the works, they all collapsed after about 2 years. But she managed all the way to the war, from the beginning to the end, and she was in charge of all the Reds, a extraordinary person. And the dear Lady Chumley used to come, and her hair was dyed blue to exactly match the stripes on her uniform. She was actually in charge. A lot of very nice Reds, I must say. Anyway, the rest of my naval experiences, I think we better leave those out. Anyway, I've not to say too much. It's all very late, and you've all got commitments. Many have come a long way, and I must say, I'm sorry for making silly speeches and saying these stories, nothing to do with the case really, but I am most grateful. I want to end up with a little quotation. You see, this Hilaire Belloc is much in the news. There's a book about him recently. He made one very sinister prophecy, which is apt, I think, in these days. He once said, our civilization was founded on coal, and it will founder on oil. Well, I think there's something to be said to that, really. He said another thing, which I was going to end up with this, and there's some chap on the television the other night ended up with the same thing. So he rather stole my thunder, which you might know. It's a very good rhyme, which I commend to you all as a way of life, in a way. And it's this. I'm not going to quote the poetry, but I think, remember this, it was this. From quiet homes and first beginnings, out to the undiscovered ends, there's nothing worth the wear of winning but laughter and the love of friends. And if I may say, I feel that, particularly after all your kindness tonight. Thank you all. Who'd retired, he was being interviewed. You know that story about there was a politician being interviewed after his retirement, you see. And he said to me, what do you do? He said, I have this comfortable chair. He said, sometimes I sit and think, sometimes I just sit.
Can you spare me one? Sorry, man.
You have a nice holiday. I just looked round.